Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. So one of the reasons I want to make this video is I've heard a lot of talk about how RVs are not a good financial investment, which they aren't.
No, they're not.
They're not.
They're not an appreciating asset. Why would people think it's an investment?
Right. But here's the secret. They are actually an investment, just not a financial one. To say that an RV is a bad investment is generally true, but it actually misses the bigger point, the more important point, I think. The RV itself depreciates as an asset.
Yeah.
You're not going to sell it back for what you bought it for. You just aren't. Unless, I guess, some Airstreams sometimes.
I mean, so you're talking on the order of a car being an investment, classic cars and stuff. There are always going to be exceptions to that particular rule, just like there's exceptions to houses being an investment. And some go down, most go up, etc. So, but as a financial investment, especially this motorhome, not a great financial investment. Not really going to work out. We'll get some money back out of it when we decide to sell it, but I'm not going to. I totally expect to, take some sort of bath on it. I mean,
financially.
That's just how it's going to go.
Yeah, so I wouldn't put your money into an RV expecting to sell it back later and become mega rich. Like, don't do that. That's not what you do this for.
Or even get out what you paid into it, because that's not what it's for.
No. Instead, it's an investment in happiness.
Yeah, and specifically in experiences.
Mm-hmm. They've actually done a lot of research on this, and I will put some in the description for you folks. But essentially, things have a way when you buy them of making you less happy over time. Like when you own an item, even money, if you're at the same level of financial worth, people tend to get less happy with that over time.
Yeah. You get acclimatized to it.
Yeah, you get habituated, acclimatized, you get numbed by it.
Yep.
Experiences are completely different. Travel in particular is completely different. So when you make memories, when you have experiences, when you do novel things, when you enrich your life, the longer it has been since the experience, the more you appreciate it. And they've actually found that, if you're on a trip and you have some mishaps and you have some problems, that they become funnier the further you get away from it. You have more fun with that. And obviously anything that's happy gets more and more golden as you move away from something.
In fact, that's something that we'll tell ourselves when something catastrophic has happened is, hey, at least it'll make a good story. Although these days it's like, hey, we should do a video on that.
But yeah, like, this will be really funny one day.
Yes.
It's something we've often said, in the moment.
The one thing that we've talked about is actually we had a mission when we started out. In fact, that's why we got into RVing, at least full-time for now, was we had a couple different missions that we decided that we wanted to do with it. The primary one was to make new experiences. We love to travel. We have done kind of driving trips around the U.S., but we wanted to take our time more. After I started looking at prices of hotels and maybe rental cars or flights or anything like that, suddenly this made sense financially if you start to compare it to that.
Yeah, I wouldn't compare traveling in an RV to living in sticks and bricks and say that RV living is cheap. But I would say compare it to staying in a hotel and renting cars and taking planes. Then RV travel is cheap.
Yeah, not to say you can't do it. You
can do it. Yeah, you can. Not the way we're doing it.
No, not the way we're doing it.
Not staying in parks and things like that.
Yeah. Secondarily is we have lived in several places in the country, and we're looking for our next one. And that was our secondary mission of actually saying, hey, where do we want to live? Let's bring our house with us and see how much we like each area.
Yes. Well, and a big thing, and I'm glad you said that, Justin, is because when you think about how happy someone is, the research they've done on that, it has been about experiences, it has been about social connections, and it has been about purpose. So when you're looking at travel, having a purpose and having a mission keeps you connected to why the travel is making you happy. It's not travel for travel's sake, right? So for some other people, it might be they want to see all the national parks, or maybe they want to build memories with their kids. Like that's the purpose. That's your happiness.
Yeah. The people that we've seen the happiest have those kinds of missions. Like they want to hit up every single national park. Mm-hmm. They want to hike certain trails. They want to climb certain mountains. They want to see certain areas, and so they start to check that off, and they start to gain some happiness from that.
And we're building memories together, and we're looking for our new home. So that's purpose for us, and we're also making these videos for you folks, which is another nice bonus along the way. I think it's fun. It's actually sometimes I find myself like, oh, I better check this out because I want to show the viewers. I want to show them this, and actually having little missions and having little ways to kind of reward yourself with experiences while you're doing that, I think is really helpful.
Well, it hits that nice little dopamine button for you.
Yes, more dopamine, please. We talked about the 3 pillars of happiness, right? So experiences, purpose, and social connection. And I think that's one of the tricky things with RVing. That's the one that's difficult.
Yes. It can be really difficult because a lot of your connections are going to be transactional, either with park staff, maybe your neighbors there for a couple weeks while you are, and you get to know them just a little bit. But all of those tend to be very kind of come and go. And although I have heard of some people making some rather lifelong friends.
Yeah, you can actually.
That.
Yeah.
Especially in today's kind of interconnected world. Well, it can have a certain amount of negative echo chamber effect, which has been covered everywhere, way beyond the scope of this. One of the original purposes of all that was its connectedness and being able to keep in touch with people that aren't physically there.
Yes.
We actually have friends all over the country. And in fact, in a couple of weeks, we're visiting a few friends that relocated down to Florida. We're able to keep up with our friends in Cleveland, with family in Michigan, with family in Maine, friends in the Pacific Northwest.
We saw a friend in Arizona we hadn't seen for a decade.
Yeah.
She'd moved away ages ago from Ohio, which is where we had lived when we knew her.
Yeah. Being able to use that technology to do that has actually, I work remotely. There are some people I've only ever seen on a screen, but I still have that emotional connection to them. It's just you have to make that purposeful.
Yes.
You have to make it so that you are deliberately making that connection. Or otherwise, you do run the risk of suffering from some loneliness and isolationism.
We were based in Dallas before we went full time, and we have a bunch of friends there, so we kind of swing by every 6 months or so.
Yep.
And when we're in town, we do kind of our errands, and we also make an effort to see our friends in Dallas. That's important. And we've been looking maybe spoiler for the channel, maybe in the Pacific Northwest getting a home. And so one of our goals when we go back up there to do that is to see if we can maybe make some friends.
Yep. Home, land, something. We're not sure yet. We're actually keeping our options open because we don't really feel like making a strong commitment right this second.
Yeah, well, part of what's lovely about this life is the flexibility. So we're trying to enjoy it while we can.
Absolutely.
One of the things about RV life is that flexibility. And what's that worth? Right? Like, think about that financially. What is that flexibility worth? Because we were talking about this. A lot of times we compare whether a stay is affordable or not at an RV park compared to our monthly rent at our apartment that we had before.
Yes.
But our apartment actually to go month to month on a lease would cost 50% more.
Yeah. Whereas we have the ultimate flexibility now. If we don't like an area, we can just nope out. If we want to visit friends up in Cleveland, we can plan that into what we're doing.
We don't just have like month-to-month leases. A lot of times we have day-to-day leases, like it's the flexibility is really
and a lot of them are breakable pretty decently. A lot of
Yeah.
people have cancellation policies and things like that, but most of them are very reasonable. So
Yeah.
I would say that's, that flexibility is certainly there.
Yep. Compared to when you're in for a year lease or when you've got a mortgage on a house and you have to sell it and all that, like it's completely different.
Oh, yeah, completely. So what's your take on this? Is buying an RV a good investment? Do you have a different mission than we do when you're RVing? A lot of people are not full-time and decide to just go camping with them. One of the big reasons we're going on is we actually like meeting people with different ideas than we do.
Has the money you've spent on RVing been well spent? When you take it all together, when you think about the experiences and all that, or has it actually been a huge waste of money? Let us know in the comments.
Otherwise, we'll see you again next time.
Thanks for watching.